If you are new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
We had a question come in about
canning here, since we've talked about the canning. I have a decent supply of asparagus I got from the farmer's market. I love asparagus, and I saw a video. I saw this video and thought I'd try it. Every time I've tried to make dill pickled or
any pickles,
then
it being mushy.
What's going on with this?
So when you're using any vegetable to pickle it, you want to use it fresh and you want to work fast. If you let that stuff sit in the brine for too long, it's going to get mushy. If you boil it for too long, it's going to get mushy. You want to work with fresh vegetables and fast. You want to do it in smaller batches.
Yeah, instead of using a quart, do a pint jar, because the processing time is much shorter and you don't have that much heat. You know, the heat is minimal. Now, if you do refrigerator pickles, you don't really necessarily have this problem when it comes to that. Let's go to the IV Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline. Caller, you're on the air.
Well, thank you for taking my call. Good morning, Mr. Joel.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Bear.
Good morning.
And good morning, Milwaukee. Good morning, Mr. Debo. A couple different things. I know the woman had spoke about the jarring and the canning there, and she mentioned the I guess it was mold. So basically, couple because I know I don't do jelly anymore, so I know my preserves and my jams, they're pretty much gone before. But I've for the couple times that I've seen family members that eat jelly, and jelly's in the refrigerator, and it's not so much that the refrigerator has failed us, but mold has started to grow inside the jar. And even some of the butter dish, you know, I'm like, you know, you got to eat this here before too long, because, you know, they'll let it sit for 2 or 3 weeks and mold starts to grow on it. So I know that sometimes, I know they said the penicillin came from a different strand of mold or something, so that or bacteria there that was helpful in the medical field there. So what's the difference between different funguses? What, you know, is mold and is mold? What's the difference between moss, mold, and different funguses? What's the other one I'm looking for there? Moss.
So like stuff like fungus, mold, moss, they're all within the same family. They're actually decomposers. So what they do is they take what's in the air and they take whatever they're sitting on and they eat that and they feed off of bacteria. So that's what the difference is. It just depends on where it's growing, how it's growing, and where it came from.
So I know that we're not to eat those, but can the medical profession do a little bit more with those as opposed to those being thrown away then? And I'll listen to you over the air. Thank you very much then.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So I assume the medical profession is probably working on stuff of that level.
Well, yeah, they came up with penicillin, which was basically positive bacteria that became an antibacterial remedy.
And some people are allergic to that.
Right, well, they have other antibiotics out there.
Another question that came in, so I'm growing a watermelon. Can I cut back the growth tips to contain the plant and make the fruit bigger? And the answer is yes, you can. And you can do the same for pumpkins as well. You're going to clip off all the developing fruit until you have about 2 or 3 per vine. And that way it's not going to try to produce 9 watermelons the size of baseballs. It will produce, and obviously it's based on the variety of watermelon too. It will produce, you know, larger melons, and you cut back that growth tip just like you do tomatoes to compress it, so it stresses it out a little bit and puts more energy into the fruit production rather than the growth cycle of that particular plant. So that's a thing. And we did this with pumpkins a couple of years ago and worked very well on our Jardale pumpkins in your
my sister's backyard. They definitely grew very nicely, and we were able to get a nice growth
45 pounds of pumpkins, which was 3 pumpkins. These Jardale pumpkins are a gray pumpkin. I think that some people label them as an Australian.
But even before that, our niece and nephew got those jack-o'-lantern type pumpkins that they were able to carve and paint for fall fun.
Yeah, and we did that. But again, yeah, watermelon. You can probably do this, and I'm not certain, but I would assume the same technique would hold true on your butternut, your spaghetti, your acorn squash.
I don't see why not.
But those are pretty quick and heavy producers to begin with, so you really have to worry too much. With these larger fruit productions, the watermelons and the pumpkins, you want to have large. You don't want to have small things growing into your. You want a large harvest.
All right, next question. When is the proper time to harvest horseradish? I planted a start
this spring, when can I harvest it? Well, you want to harvest it in the fall after the first frost. Now, you can harvest it, really, the old saying is any month that ends in "er," so October, November, December. Well, around here, by the middle of November, the ground is pretty frozen. Sometimes you can't see the ground. So, first frost in October, harvest it one time. You don't want to remove the whole plant. You want to leave some for regeneration, but it'll look like white carrot is what the resemblance of the root is going to look like. And you can actually physically eat that horseradish just like you would a carrot. And you're not going to have that heat that you normally associate horseradish with. Now, when that heat occurs is whenever you shred it and expose it to oxygen. That's when the chemical reaction occurs, and that's when you get that heat that many of us are familiar with horseradish. But plant it in the spring, harvest it in the fall after the first frost, and you can get many years out of horseradish. Can you explain more about how you make your weed tea? Weed as being weeds that we harvest from the garden that are growing abundantly. So what we've done is we've taken a 30, 40-gallon tote. You can use a bucket, you can use a trash can. Fill it full of the weeds that you've harvested, and then top it off with water and let it steep there. You don't need air bubblers. You don't need any of that. What is occurring is the leaching of the nutrients out of the weeds, and there's some rot going on there, and it absorbs into the water, and then you take that water and you feed the plants, water it normally. Now, it does, if any of you have ever drove by a farm, when you get close to this concoction that you've made with the weed and the water, it has the smell of a farm, a cattle lot. But it has a very large nutrient-rich liquid concentrate that you can water. We do 100%. We just dip it right out of there and we water the plants. It's great for the plants, great for the foliar feed. Just put it on everything. And if you're concerned about the smell, you can do it a day before or a day of a rain, but you want to utilize this. Now, you can use Moo-Poo tea. You can use the compost tea bags from Purple Cow Organics. But again, all combinations of these type of materials work great. But we find that we've experimented with the weed tea, and then people will say, well, what do you do with the contents that you've left over, the grasses that are dead and broke down? We just throw in the compost pile, and if it does have a smell to it, you can certainly mix it into the compost pile, so you don't have to deal with the flies that we find that come to that container. But again, any type of weeds work. It doesn't matter if they contain seeds or whatever. And you can do this with grass clippings too, but you want to make sure they're chemical-free grass clippings so you don't have any leaching of chemicals into the garden that can cause problems throughout the season. That will wrap the show up. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on the program, participating, listening. We hope that we provided information that will be applicable for your particular growing situation. Join us next week. We're going to talk about foliar feeding as well as plant problems, and our first ever in-studio guest. They're going to be with us for the entire program. They are the host and co-host of the Mike Novak Show with Peggy Malecki from WGCN out of Evanston, Illinois. Mike Novak and Peggy Malecki will be with us for the entire program in studio, so that'll be a treat. They have a lot of information that they can bring to the table. Miss any portion of this program or want to revisit it in its entirety, you can certainly do that by going to the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and clicking on the radio tab at the top of the page. Want a specific interview or individual segment from past shows, you can do that under the highlight tab on the main page of the same website. Well, until next week, for Holly Baird, I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.
You've been listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Tell a friend and join Joy and Holly again next week so we can all grow together. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is a production of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com in association with WI Garden Media broadcast live from the WNOV 860 AM and the W293CX 106.5 FM Courier Communication Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thank you for checking out the the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. For more, go to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for full length in-studio video and podcast replay of Season 1. Season 2 underway and added weekly. Tweet us at TWVG Show or hashtag TWVG to be part of the program.